What, what or who, I don't know, there's no right word, but what or who is doing the forgetting? What or who is doing the believing that we are a separate body? Where does that come from? If we are all awareness,
Yes.
and awareness doesn't forget itself, is always aware of itself, who's or what is doing that forgetting?
There is no entity that is doing the forgetting or the believing or the thinking or the feeling. The forgetting or the believing is an appearance that awareness itself is assuming, in just the same way that the image is an appearance that the screen is assuming. There is no entity apart from the screen that is doing the appearing as an image. It is because the screen itself, the TV screen, the self-aware screen, is the only thing present there to be appearing as the image. So the forgetting, which comes in the form of a belief and a feeling, it is consciousness itself that veils itself with its own activity. Now, you might say, well, if sticking to the metaphor of the screen, and in this case it's a TV screen, but the screen is a self-aware screen. It's not like a TV that's being watched by someone sitting on the sofa. The screen is watching the movie that it is taking the shape of. So you might say, well, it's the screen itself that appears as the movie, that's fine. But it is the screen that is watching the movie, so from its point of view, there is no veiling of itself, because it is the sole content of the image, and that's absolutely correct. From the point of view of awareness, there is no real forgetting or veiling of itself. So, your question, for whom is the forgetting? Whose ignorance is it? It is only from the point of view of one of the characters in the movie that the screen seems to be missing. From the point of view of the character in the movie, there is just a landscape, but the screen is absent. From the point of view of the screen, there is just the screen modulating itself in the form of the landscape. The character in the movie is the separate self. It is only from its own point of view that the screen seems to be missing. In other words, that there seems to be ignorance. So the ignorance is for the illusory character. And hence in the Vedantic tradition, they talk about they don't speak of ignorance, they speak of the illusion of ignorance. Because it's only real from the illusory point of view of the imaginary character. In other words, ignorance is a point of view. It's not something that is really there. It's a way of seeing. It's not something that is seen. From the screen's point of view, which is the only real point of view, from the point of view of the self-aware screen, which is the only real point of view because that is all that is really there, there is no real veiling of itself. So in other words, from awareness's point of view, there is no veiling of itself, because all thinking, sensing and perceiving are simply a modulation of its own knowing. It's only from the point of view of the character in the movie, the separate self, that awareness seems to be missing. In other words, it's only from the point of view of the finite mind. The finite mind is only infinite consciousness modulating itself. So from the point of view of infinite consciousness, the apparently finite mind is not a problem. It's only from the point of view of the finite mind that the finite mind is a problem. In other words, the ego is only an ego from the illusory point of view of an ego. Awareness knows nothing of an ego, or a separate self, or a separate object.
Okay, thank you. I'll let that sink in.
It takes some pondering, yes.
Thank you.